Good morning, wonderful people, and welcome to very first ever Coffee with Jen. I'm all alone, and here is coffee. So if you hear the sound effects of coffee being poured, it is for real. So I have no plans. Oh, I have kind of a plan. I have one thing I wanted to look up that I heard about this morning, so we're going to do that. And I'm also curious, what kind of coffee do you like? Or do you care? Do you just drink whatever's at the 7-Eleven? I don't know. So feel free to drop that in the comments, post pictures of your coffee, and tag me on the Twitter, because for some weird reason I like coffee pictures. And we can begin. Mine's a blend of a couple of different French roasts. So I don't even remember which ones I ground. It was like a week ago. But anyhow, here we are. Coffee. Cheers. So there are multiple things that I wanted to do with this show, but one of them is talk about things that we might not otherwise know. And one of those things is that apparently they're building some trains over in the desert in the Middle East. So I'm going to look that up as soon as I get the screen share going here. Just one moment. And we can learn about it, because that's important. All right, there we go. And add that. So how do I find information on things like this? Because this is going to be another question. If I'm sharing the news, how do you know that I'm sharing anything decent? Well, you know about as much as I do. So how do we know that I'm sharing something decent? Let's try and find out. Usually there are some, you'll get a feel for what's neutral and what's not. So let's see, trains, rails in the desert in the Middle East. Let's see what this gets. Oh, there we go. The B1W. Okay, sure. Never heard of them, so let's see if they're any good. Slow to load, but that's okay. It's over just a smidge. Okay, the 100 billion railway in the desert. It's got a picture of a train in some sand. Cool. That's a video, but I'm not going to watch that. That's a discussion for another day. Okay, one of the world's most ambitious projects, blah, blah, middle of the desert, Gulf Cooperation Council, 6 of the Middle East's wealthiest countries. Which 6? Okay, so can I read further? Yeah, but I'm not going to, because they didn't answer my very first question. So what was that thing called? It was the Gulf Cooperation Council. Who the hell are they? So this is your test right here for, was that decent journalism? Right there? No. Who are the member countries? So it's a council, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of monarchies. There's a map. So it's probably all of those countries. I was really hoping for a list, because that makes me more sense. Members, objectives, logo, Supreme Council, blah, blah, blah. Member states. There we go. Okay, so they said over here that it was 6 of the Middle East's wealthiest countries. So who do I have here? I have 6. Good. Okay. Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. And it looks like mostly monarchies, but, well, constitutional monarchy. I mean, if I'm calling that a monarchy, technically Canada's a monarchy, and I don't feel like I live in a monarchy. But anyway. Okay, cool. So there's a bunch of places, and if I go up here, oh, that's not sharing because I only shared a tab. I'm sorry. Hang on, let me try this again. I need to do better, because you don't know what I'm looking at, and it doesn't make any sense at all here. So, do this again. I'm going to share the entire screen, and I'll just have to deal with it. Welcome to Inception. Okay, so I'm going to make this bigger. Okay, so this is what I was looking at. It was the Wikipedia article on the Gulf Cooperation Council. And they've got the map over here saying that, showing where the member states are. So it looks like it is mostly this chunk of land. Now, for geographical reference, where is that? because nothing else around it is named. And if you're not me and don't pay attention to things, you might not know. So, all right, let's take a look at that. We want to go to Saudi Arabia. Cool. I misspelled it and it still found it. Love it. So here we are. Here's the map again. So we've got, you can see here that it's got that like sort of heart-shaped chunk of land. I'm in the same place. Here's my sort of heart-shaped chunk of land. So Saudi and the peninsula around it, there's Yemen over there. And Yemen, I don't think was part of the list, were they? Because they're not particularly wealthy. I mean, that's not why they're not there, but there are other reasons. No, they're not on the list. So this is where it gets interesting as well. Is if I'm looking at what's around them, we've got some seaports over in Dubai and up in through the Persian Gulf. Kuwait, hop, skip, and a jump away. Iraq, they weren't on the list. Iran, not on the list. Oman was part of the group of 6, but Yemen certainly wasn't, as far as I know. Now there's related or associated states. I'll get into that in a moment because I'm curious about that, but I wanted to see what was here. So we've got Eritrea, which took all of Ethiopia's seaports. Ethiopia is probably still bitter about that. And I've got Somalia over here. So, and some Red Sea over here. So they're going to put some train tracks down. Okay, cool. And unite all the places in the desert. That makes sense. But what is their end goal? I mean, they can trade amongst themselves, sure, but what is their end goal with their neighbors? And who are their neighbors in terms of trade? Yemen's probably not trading a whole lot. Somalia, probably not trading a whole lot. Eritrea, yeah, they're probably trading. Sudan, I don't know. I don't know a lot about Sudan. Egypt, maybe. Israel, I don't think they're friends. So that's a thing. Anyhow, so let's go back here then, because there is a section on associated states. There we go. Okay, so Egypt, Iraq, Iran, Jordan and Morocco, and Yemen. Okay, so that's all cool. And that makes sense geographically with what we just saw as well. So Yemen was in negotiations for membership. It has no Persian Gulf coastline, but it has like freaking open ocean. So, you know, like if you put if I were me, would I want to try and get my ship through the Red Sea and take some time, or would I want to take a train down through Yemen and like just go out into the ocean? I don't know. I don't know what the difference is in the cost of fuel or carrying capacity or anything like that, but those are questions, right? So now that we have some geography, we have some background, we'll zoom out a little bit because where is that, right? If you're not me, again, I have to assume that not everybody looks at maps. So Saudi Arabia is in the Middle East. The Middle East is kind of between Africa and Western Asia, and also the Europe. The Europe? Yeah, I can speak. You can tell I got up early and prepared. So now we go back to here. My only criticism of this piece so far is that they did not identify the major players. They gave me a map that is vague and probably shows the rail lines. It is. Okay. And also, interesting, Etihad Rail. Are they the same company that does the airplanes? Because if they are, that's going to get real interesting. Hang on here, because they're one of the like top airline companies in the world. Yeah, they are this. I think they are the same. So let's take a look at that, because that means if they're doing passenger rail, it's going to be pretty fancy schmancy. And that was, of course, the next question. You know, safety, fancy schmanciness. What else is there? So I'm not getting very far with reading the news here. So their homepage is slow to load, blah, 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 developer of the UAE's National Railway Network. Okay. So, oh, and there's a picture of all the people who approved the deal and some construction-y stuff. Cool. So it is happening. It's not just, you know, something. I want to find operations. I don't really want operations. I want to know if they are run by the same people as the airline. What's an NOI? Is that going to tell me what I want to know? Probably not. Because it's not doing it. Oh, maybe. Okay. National Railway. Notice of intent and no objection certificates. Okay. Notice of intent. Cool. For some odd reason, I didn't think that would be there. Anyhow, let's take another look here then. Are they the same? Yes. Okay. So this is interesting. To me, I don't know if it's interesting to you, but let's see here. Expands air rail partnership with Access Rail in Europe. Okay, well, that didn't really tell me what I wanted to know, but anyhow, corporate profile. Yeah, give me some of that. Aviation group, blah, 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 do. No, they're not. See, okay, so this again is one of those things where if I were writing this news piece and said that the image was courtesy of Etihad Rail, I would have put in brackets whether or not they were related to the airline. So I don't know. This is just me pulling this apart. So here we go. Desert sands and mountains and challenges and okay. So far I have received almost no information from this, except for the map. The map is interesting because they're going to go. There's a port over here, a port over here, and a port over there. A couple more ports in here, but they're not going all the way up here because, like I said before, they're not friends. So that's the thing. Maybe they will in the future. It would be really nifty if they could have some sort of like economic cooperation with a railway through the desert and eventually end up not being in a giant pissing match with each other. But yeah, so diversifying economies away from oil and gas will help develop stronger economies. Okay. Sure. It'll connect all the things. It'll connect the manufacturing hubs and the nation's ports and the urban centers. Yes, that is what rail does. Okay. Okay, key element is Etihad Railway, an 11 billion, 12,000 kilometer freight, no, 1,200 kilometer freight and passenger rail stretching across the Emirates from the Gulf of Oman to the Persian Gulf. Okay, so they already have rail. It's being constructed in 2 stages. First stage was completed in 2016, and the second stage, no, it's just sure not mentioned there. Okay, so there's another giant hole. When is the second stage getting done? In stage 1. Okay, we're still talking about stage 1. See, I would have had stage 1 was done and stage 2 is going to be, and then go back to stage 1. But, you know, again, this is why I do these things. I have too many questions. Let's see. Oh, the Emirates is the world's top exporter of sulfur. Interesting. Most of it likely went to China. I had no idea. World's largest importer of the element. And oh, China's involved in stage 2 of the project. There we go, stage 2. It began in 2020 and will go to the East Coast. Cool. A $408.4 million contract put China State Construction Engineering Corporation and South Korea's SK Engineering Construction in charge of the design and construction of 139 kilometers of rail line. Okay, so this is interesting because 139 kilometers. Now, admittedly, there'd be some challenges in the desert because sand isn't particularly stable and stuff. But now I am curious. Distance from Regina to Saskatoon is how many kilometers? It's 263 kilometers. So for however much money there, for 408 million, they're going to build a rail line that is approximately a little bit less than half the distance between the 2 big cities in the province where I live. And for reference, that drive is about It's 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on the weather. If it's winter, it can be up to 5 because, snow and stuff. But that's interesting. I didn't know. I have nothing to base my that's interesting on other than I have no idea what rail costs. So I don't know if that's a good deal or not. But there you go. That's a cost, and there's an example of distance. And okay, so let's use some distance. Do another distance marker here. Distance from and to, oh, did I spell? To Minot. This will make sense for the people who are down south. Estevan is southeast of Regina, that city that I just searched, which is near where I live, sort of. And it says it's 191 kilometers to Minot in North Dakota. So for anyone in the US, that makes sense. And I don't, unfortunately, have enough of a geographical knowledge of other places in the world to try and do this search with other places to try and give better reference. But here again, if you want to know how far a thing is and give yourself some reference, search it. So depending on who the audience is, again, if it were me writing this, I'd say 139 kilometers of rail line, approximately double the distance from Regina to Saskatoon. If my audience is in Saskatchewan or wherever I am, I can look at a frickin' map and figure it out. But it helps to break it down so that you have some idea of reference, because constructing 139 kilometers of rail line, yay, I don't really understand how much that is in reference to that map I saw. And any of the rest of that stuff, nothing, no reference. So, okay, so I guess maybe let's do that then. How far is it from, I'm going to butcher the spelling here, I know. Distance from Abu Dhabi to Riyadh? Can't spell. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Google. Okay, so this is going to be the next question. What is that distance? It's 901 kilometers. So if they're building 139 kilometers of rail, that's probably, do my head math here, it's probably about like 1/9 or 2/9 of the distance between those two places, which would give you some reference. So there you go. Sand makes it difficult for shifting terrain. Yes, they've learned. China, Saudi, Mauritania turn sand dunes into clay, monitor the shifting, planting walls of vegetation. Okay, well, that's interesting. I had thought about that. And it's a valid question. The only place I've ever taken a train through the desert was in Australia, and it certainly didn't occur to me there. I was too busy watching kangaroos. Okay. Oh, and they also constructed over 20 bridges. Under bridges, road underpasses. Huh, interesting. Okay, so there is infrastructure. And that's going to be another thing. Like, show me the map here. What does the terrain look like? And they've changed the place of all the things. Layers there. I want me some, no, I don't want terrain. I want satellite. Give me satellite. Is that satellite? There it is. Okay. So if I'm looking here, it says it's a long drive, but what does the infrastructure currently look like? So if I zoom in on the map, I can see some roads. And I can tell that there are roads because there are roads. I can see the lines. But if I zoom in a lot, I can also see smaller lines on the map as well. And I'm kind of getting the impression that a rail line would be quite useful. If you've never driven through the desert, it's long, it's hot, and if your vehicle breaks down, it's kind of life or death because it's hot. So in that sense, having a train it could actually be a safety improvement. And I have no idea what the driving conditions are like in the Middle East. I've never been. But I would argue that a train of any kind is probably going to be a safety improvement over long drives through the desert, whether you are in a car or in a truck. Yeah. So, okay, back to this. Let's see. The company built 2 factories to produce concrete railway sleepers made from locally sourced raw materials, form the base of the tracks. Each sleeper is 2.6 meters long and weighs 340 kilograms. See, that doesn't mean anything to me. 2.6 meters long. Okay, well, okay. I think that just means I can sleep in it. Attached to the rails with a fastening system, help stabilize the track and ensure the train can travel smoothly. Okay, so concrete railway sleepers are not the same as sleeper train cars where you lay down and have a sleep. I feel like this is the kind of thing where a picture would be good. I'm clearly reading something I don't know a lot about, and this is fun. So concrete railway sleepers. Oh, those things. Okay. I've seen those things. I live near a train. Yeah, so those are those things. Okay. And they put them in the ground and then you put the train tracks on top of them and it's great. Yeah, kind of like braces. Okay, cool. And mostly they're transporting sulfur right now. They report that a single train journey reduces carbon dioxide emissions by 70 to 80% compared to if those trips were being made by trucks. Well, that's cool. I can get on board with that. And who couldn't, really? Significant. They have one of the highest carbon footprints in the world. Okay. But no numbers to back that up. So I have no comparison. I don't know if that's per capita. I don't know. Yeah, right. So my conclusion here is that the b1m.com is maybe not the best source of news. I have too many questions. Cheers. Okay. So they have one of the highest carbon footprints in the world, apparently. The efficiency has made the Emirates the world's top exporter of sulfur and most likely went to China. Also involved in stage 2 of the project. Yes, that is repetition. They already said that. Or maybe I already read that. Yeah, because this looks familiar. I think I already read it. Okay, so we're back here. So, blah, blah, there was some conflict. The vision of Gulf leaders has emerged from being a vision of ambition and sometimes unrealistic ambition to a vision of pragmatism, Professor Amri said. Okay, so I don't know who Professor Amri is because I probably wasn't reading very thoroughly. And that was a nicely worded sentence that told me nothing. Okay, so their expectations are realistic now because they're working with real people. Cool. They haven't said when it will be open for commuters. Well, okay, cool. I understand that some of the places are closer together than others, but if I'm looking at 900 kilometers between 2 big cities, that's not commuter distance. So interesting. And can commuter rails run on the same rails as freight trains? I guess so. They're saying it can. Might be a tough sell for a country that loves its cars. In 2020, a survey by Road Safety UAE found that 83% of respondents depended on cars, while only 13% used public transportation. Okay. I'm going to ask a question from living in a smaller city with mediocre public transportation. Does the public transportation actually serve the needs of the people? Because when you're looking at a statistic like that, that's like out of that context, it's just numbers and who cares. There are a ton of people. There was a survey done in Saskatoon where I live. I don't remember last year or the year before, about bicycles riding on the road. They were trying to figure out what to do with bike lanes and make a plan and all the rest of that. And it kind of went down in flames because one of the higher percentages of responses was that a lot of people in my city are afraid of bicycles. So let that sink in for a moment. And if you're from a place where people don't really bike, then maybe you're in the same boat and maybe I'm the weird one. But as someone who has cycled on the road in more than one country, I find that to be absolutely astounding that there would be drivers who would be afraid of me. If I'm in Saskatchewan and you're driving your big old Dodge Ram truck down the road and not really looking, and your mirror's at the same height as my head on my bicycle, I have a lot more to be afraid of than you do. So, yeah. So if my question then again is, if people are not using the public transportation, does it serve the need? And I can use my city as an example again. To get from my house down to the police station downtown for a criminal record check to take the kids on a field trip, it's a little bit over an hour to walk, or it is 45 or 50 minutes on the bus. And that's 45 or 50 minutes on the bus if the connections are on time, if I leave at a time where there are connections and I don't have to wait. So in that instance, the public transit system does not serve my need in the slightest. Can I take a bus downtown? Yeah, I can, but where else am I going, and why on earth is it taking 50 minutes? If I drive, it's like 5. So when I see statistics like this, I ask those questions as well. If the public transit system isn't serving the needs of the people aren't going to use the public transit system. So something else to be considered when they're putting passenger trains up, and they're going to, hope to have commuters and all the rest of it. I hope, and I see nothing here to give me any information, but my hope is that they would actually look at the patterns of where people are going, why they're going, when they're going, how they're going, and take that into account when creating a public transit system. It needs to be available, it needs to be fast, and it needs to be affordable, and it needs to go where you want. And that's the very simple truth. If I have to go from my house to downtown, I almost always end up walking, because the bus just is simply not convenient. If it's the summer, I will happily ride my bike. If it is not the summer, if it's winter, I walk. And that's including at -50. So you really meet the needs of the people. This is turning into a thing now, because I'm thinking, well, meet the needs of the people. Where else can we be meeting the needs of the people? Where else do we have railways? The Uplift has railways. And I'm not just like making a stretch to try and make that relevant. We've had some conversation lately about the rails that were laid down in Chicken Caw, because when people are trying to get to Shippltopia, if they fall off the rails, they can't get back up on the rails. And anybody who's ever tried to run through Chicken Caw in the night knows that down on the ground is where most of the monsters are. So serve the needs of the people. So that's something, I'll put that on the agenda for us to talk about. I don't think we'll actually do anything about it, but you never know. And people have a say in these things. So if you have strong feelings one way or the other, say so. Whether it's, something as simple as the Uplift with some stairs on the rails that we might be able to do, maybe not, or something that's a bit more challenging, like a large government. If my provincial government is going to do something stupid, they're going to hear from me. I don't know I never know if my comments get to the right people. Occasionally I get a letter back, but not with the current government, and that's okay. I sometimes I get heard, sometimes I don't. But if you don't speak up, nobody will ever know you have any thoughts. Anyhow, that was a tangent. And let's see, the railway is a big part of the nation's plan to become more sustainable and diversify their economies. It's given rise to new industry. What new industry? Rail production? Probably. Means new jobs. They have developed rail studies training programs. Oh, cool. I have no idea what that would even be. Now I'm curious. Rail studies training program. Okay, what do we got here? Oh, still got it on pictures. I don't want pictures. I want everything. Railway training. Oh, and that's Canadian. Cool, let's see what this is. I had no idea. Railway Association of Canada. Okay. Conductor program. Students learn the operating roles, skills such as switching and marshalling cars, handling dangerous goods, performing inspections, keeping records. Okay. A bunch of places where it's offered. They have apprenticeships for heavy-duty equipment technician, industrial electrician, and welder. Okay. Internships for, don't know, hands-on training. Okay. And professional development. Oh, those. There's always professional development. Okay, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess that makes sense. The Gulf economies have grown. Okay, cool. And they want to build a more connected country. This is all good. I see nothing wrong with any of this, although I'm curious to see how it unfolds. So, that is a thing. And I don't know about you, but my coffee's cold now because I've done too much talking. So let's see. Check in here with the comments. What do we got here? Haha. Eastern Desert in Chicken Caw. Yes. And I think there is a train there. That's a good place. The rail stops at your part of the desert in the southeast. I think there's a landowner thing going on there. I'm pretty sure. But yes, interesting. Oh, and you want to try and extend it. Great plan. Yeah, we are going to have some sort of like an infrastructure development committee to review those things. And if anybody wants to volunteer to be on that committee, great. Trains are going to need some good AC. Yes, it gets hot in the desert. It gets really hot. When I was in Australia driving, I learned to drive stick shift in Australia in the desert, and it was terrifying because it was the other side of the road from what I'm used to. But we had a couple jugs of water in the car for the radiator. It was a thing. Greg says, yes, it's the same company. Well, thank you for clearing that up. I thought so. They abandon supercars in some parts of the desert. Yes. If I have the absolute nicest Lambo and it breaks down in the desert, I'm not sticking around. I'm taking the first ride out. I am not sticking around to find out what happens if I starve and bake in the desert. So that is that. Welcome to coffee. We'll be having some more coffee. It's Friday. I woke up late. I slept in today, so everything's a little scattered, but it is Friday and tomorrow is Saturday. There's no coffee on Saturday. There's gratitudes on Sunday, and then coffee again on Monday. So hopefully we have some other stuff to talk about. If you have any ideas or things you want to talk about, feel free to drop them in the comments, message me, give me information, tell me things I don't already know. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world that doesn't make the news. So if we find out about things like that, I'd be happy to talk about them, learn about them, answer questions. As you've seen, I have a million questions of my own. And that's the thing. So until Sunday morning gratitudes, we'll see you then. Thanks for joining me.